Call this meeting of the Open Space and Recreation Committee to order. We have a new member, Travis Mast, replacing Patrick Eagle from as the Conservation Commission's representative to this committee. So welcome, Travis.
Thank you.
And seeing as how two of our members are remote, I will officially call the roll here. Stephen?
Here.
Travis?
Here.
Elizabeth?
Here.
And Shannon?
Here.
I suppose Dave should say he's here too.
Yes, you should.
Alrighty, we don't have much of an agenda. We haven't met since March.
That can't be.
I know, I was looking at this a week or two ago, thinking about making preparation for this meeting. And I realized, yeah, March was the last time we actually met as a committee.
How is that possible? We reviewed the partial document a couple times.
Yes, so at our March meeting, that leads me into our first agenda item is an update on the parcel acquisition project. And yes, at our March meeting, we kind of reviewed the results of that, more or less finalizing it with the intent that it would then be presented to the select board. And the select board would that was sort of the final step. That the select board wasn't exactly approving it, but we that was part of closing out the project officially with the Central Mass Regional Planning staff. So we did that. And, it was just presented to the select board. Not a whole lot of discussion, but basically that we kind of wrapped it up. But and then we never came back to meet after that just to sort of follow up on, not that there was a lot of follow up necessarily, but anyway, just I don't recall that the select board had anything really earth shaking or dramatic to say about it. It was just we completed the project. The other follow up from that was Fiona has had some discussions with our GIS vendor with the idea of putting the data from the parcel acquisition project onto the town's mapping, GIS mapping site. To my knowledge, that hasn't happened yet. I know Fiona has mentioned to me a couple of times she's had some discussions with the vendor, but given all the other things that Fiona has to do, nothing much has actually happened. But still, that's sort of still in the works. I think we posted everything on the website. But beyond that, I'm not aware that anything has come to fruition.
I missed the rec department meeting and what Andy was going to be presenting, looking at field needs. And I'm assuming, I'm making an assumption that he's looking at field needs based on availability of space. I'm not sure if he's using the database for the purposes of identifying what's available.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna have to check with him. See what he's done with that. I haven't seen the minutes from the meeting. It happened last week while I was gone.
Yeah, I haven't heard of any activity that's taken place that's really referenced the parcel acquisition project, the data that we collected. It did come up. There's two things I know that sort of relate to it. One is, back in July, I think it was, the last two Robinson parcels around Silver Lake became available. That is, they got a signed purchase and sale agreement, and the select board voted to exercise the town's option to purchase those. I believe that's going to show up on the fall town meeting. I mean,
It was the two properties.
those two,
$300,000 in total, something like that.
something of that. I don't remember
It
the
makes sense, $150,000 per half acre.
something like that. But in any case, I mean, we didn't really need the parcel acquisition project analysis to
Yeah.
know that we wanted it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had our eyes on those for a very long time, but I mean, they came in rated fairly high, but not at the top of the parcel acquisition project. And then the other thing that it came to the planning board's attention last week, there is a conversion of a portion of a 61, I think of the 61B parcel. Well, I want to say Fitzpatrick Road. That it's not because it's withdrawing a portion of the parcel from chapter 61. It doesn't trigger the town's right of first refusal. So it's sort of irrelevant, but yeah, when that came up, just as basically as a correspondence item in the planning board last week. I looked it up in the parcel acquisition or prioritization project. And the parcel as a whole was rated like 8.75 out of 24 possible points, so yeah, even if it had come to the town as a first refusal, it wouldn't have been a high priority.
I think that came up yesterday on Concom. Cause we had our meeting yesterday.
Yeah.
Like 61 Fitzpatrick, maybe.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have
We were
seen it.
thinking it wasn't.
The select board saw it. It was in the select board correspondence last night as well.
Yeah. Not one of our action items. But yeah, we also didn't think it was probably not a good idea. Low priority.
Yeah, but this is one of those kind of odd cases where they're not selling a piece of land. And then they're simply withdrawing a piece of their parcel from chapter 61, retaining ownership. They pay the back taxes, but it doesn't otherwise trigger the town's right to acquire.
What are the plans? They don't pay back taxes for no reason.
Right, in this particular instance, they're going to be building a house on that piece.
Oh.
There's a house on the property.
Yeah.
They're gonna be building a house, I think it was for their daughter or something
Oh,
like
good.
that. But they're just taking that space out of. I think it was agriculture, but it might have been recreation, 61A or 61B. Taking that piece of the process, it's a fairly substantial, good sized park. But, yeah, those are the only two things that I'm aware of. Since we completed the parcel prioritization project. Those are the only two things I'm aware of where. The prioritization results have come in, been included in some way in the discussion. So
It's
that's
nice to have that database to look things, just curiosity, you can look things
Yep.
up.
Yeah, I'm hoping that, there is supposed to be more staff coming into the planning and conservation office. Not quite sure when that's gonna happen, but if Fiona's workload gets reduced a little bit, then she may be able to follow up more with the GIS folks and get that data out there in a more usable manner.
Yeah.
But that's where we're at with that. That was our big project for the better part of the last year. And, and unless anybody has any other questions or comments on that,
What do we do next?
that's the next agenda. item. What do we do next? And I was looking at, there's really not a lot coming up that is sort of on our list of things that we might be doing. We have we basically had identified, going back to the action items in the open space and rec plan, there were 3 action items that we kind of assigned to this committee. One of them is the prioritization project, which we've completed. One is work to establish a committee to review town-owned land for updated uses related to open space and recreation needs. And I think we had concluded that basically by assigning ourselves action items, we've accomplished that.
Yeah.
Which, just said, man, the other one which has yet to be done, and this is where we can, look at something for us to pursue, And that is to annually evaluate existing tax title properties and where appropriate, seek to place under the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. I don't know what tax title properties the town currently holds that might be suitable for this, but this is probably something that, we could, could work on. Touch base with the assessor's office. Not quite sure when we wrote this into the open space and recreation plan. I'm not 100% sure what we were thinking by referring to tax title property, existing
Yeah,
tax
I
title.
remember the discussion, we didn't get in a lot of detail. We talked about it.
Because there's sort of,
Dave, I think I know what that is.
yes.
Dave, I think that's when we were talking about the parcels that the town technically owns because of some sort of agreement with the developer, but it never got transferred appropriately. Do you remember
That-
talking about that?
Yeah, well, I remember we talked about that. So there's a couple of things that might fall into this. There are, I think you're right, Shannon, it reminds me that, back when I was developing the open space inventory for the open space and rec plan, I ran across a couple of parcels of land that the developers had designated as open space to be transferred to the town, but they never actually got transferred to the town. So these are properties that are currently owned by somebody other than the town, but were intended to become town-owned or town-controlled open space. So there's that. And then there are properties that the town has acquired through the tax title process, where somebody doesn't pay their taxes and don't pay their taxes. And eventually we foreclose on it and the town takes ownership. So that's distinct from the other one, the intended open space that never got transferred to the town. There are properties that the town has taken by tax title and done nothing with. And there's also possibly parcels that the town is in the tax title process, but has not yet completed the foreclosure. Quite often, the town will file a tax lien, tax taking, and then the owner will pay the back taxes. And so the town ends up not taking it. It's probably not meaningful for us to be evaluating those, that the town doesn't actually own them, but any parcels of land that the town has taken this tax title and hasn't done anything with, that's the other thing that this action item could conceivably cover, looking at those parcels as potential parcels that should be placed under Conservation Commission control.
Yep.
Or potentially used for recreation.
Yeah, exactly. Acquired. If there's back taxes, what's the value? Can we get a cheap deal on it by taking it and paying a small lump sum?
Yeah, and of course, not to make things even more complicated, but there's some recent, and I'm not positive if this is actually passed through the legislature, but there's some recent issues regarding property that the town takes for non-payment of taxes, where as has been our practice for ages in this state. We basically foreclose on the property. We try to sell it at auction. If we do sell it at auction, we get the money for it. But there's an issue of what's being referred to as kind of uncharitably as equity theft. That is, in a case like that, if we take a property where they owe $5,000 in taxes, we sell it for $100,000. We've been keeping the whole $100,000.
That's not right.
And, there's a fairly recent case, I think it was from Minnesota, where that was determined to be, no, you don't wanna do that. If the owner owed $5,000 in taxes, the town took the property, sold it for 100K, we're supposed to give the owner back the equity they had in the process.
Right.
But that's,
Plus the taxes, obviously.
I mean, you know,
Yeah, wouldn't we owe for the taxes if that were the case? So this is a foreclosed property, so any liens or we don't, that wouldn't be part of it.
right,
Yeah.
but on the other hand, what we're talking about here is tax sale property, is property that we have seized, foreclosed on for non-payment of taxes. But we've retained ownership of. Because I think that happens when we put it up for auction and nobody buys it.
Nobody advised.
In that
Right.
case,
It's a
we
different
retain the
situation.
whole value of the property, but there's a question of whether the town is rightfully holding on to that entire value of the property. So this,
Does the original owner have equity that the town should be reimbursing them for
right,
to essentially acquire the land?
so I don't know how that's gonna play out in future tax taking.
Yeah, why would we do that? Because if the land is crap,
That, I mean, ultimately, that may affect the town's decision to foreclose on tax on the property, but as far as going back to what this committee might be working on is looking at property the town does own, has taken, you know, and arguably you could extend this to say other land that the town owns and is not doing anything with,
what can we do with it?
what can we do with it? So put it this way, I guess I would put it this way, we could think of looking at all of the land that the town owns, that's undeveloped, that's not already set aside for open space and recreation purposes, and identify any such parcels that perhaps ought to be set aside.
This have included property, because you mentioned developers, property that's supposed to be in a conservation restriction that had a open space element to it. I think there's a lot of those out there too. Like a developer has a subdivision, Highfield is a good example. All the woodland around it is supposed to be open space. And I think there's a recreational component too.
Yeah.
I don't know if the town is really doing anything with those.
That specific case,
That's not close.
as it
That's-
happens, they are in the process of creating a conservation restriction, I
Yeah.
believe, it's on the high field, so that's in process. There are developments that have space set aside for open space that at some point during the development or at the completion of the development, the land will be either turned over to the town entirely or placed under a conservation restriction held by the town or protected by some other means. So those things are all in process and we expect those to be completed. What Shannon was reminding us of is that there are a few cases of parcels of land that go back to the 1960s, 70s, or 80s that were intended to be handed over to the town for conservation or recreation purposes, but that never actually happened. So that part of the process is sort of to go back to try to identify the owners of those parcels. And
It's bringing back memories of our conversation because
Yeah.
we're talking about a contiguous space for trails throughout Grafton and expanding that trail path into different areas within Grafton and across properties such as that.
so assuming that this is something that we think is worth working on, and yeah, we all kind of think that, yeah, we should follow up on this. But probably at least part of that I have somewhere in my information, all the information I have. And it's shown on the open space map, but I don't know how easy it is to work with. I could maybe start out by compiling a list of, a list of really highlighting those specific parcels that we might want to look at, and then collectively, we can review the individual parcels. And we might also touch base with the assessor's office to see, see if they're, see if they are aware of any tax title properties that maybe we don't already know about. I think my list of tax title properties is fairly current, but that's worthwhile getting. So perhaps the way we move forward on this is to start by pulling together a list of all the properties that might be worth looking at here, and then we can review those and go from there.
Yeah. I like it. It's a worthy project, if it's not being done already.
Yeah, I'm quite sure, at least with respect to all those old open space that never really got turned over to the town. Nothing's certainly been done about that in years. There's one I'm thinking of that I think goes back somewhere in the sixties. Another one that I know dates to around the mid to late eighties. I don't remember off the top of my head how many altogether, how many there are of those. But yeah, I'll begin by pulling together what I have along those lines, and we can go through those at our next meeting, and then we'll go from there.
Good. That's your personal information? Or is it something the assessor's office is holding on to them, and you just know how to get them?
The information I have is what I've pulled together. I basically have a database of all the open space. This goes back to when I was producing or updating the open space inventory for the open space rec plan back in 2020. So I spent a fair amount of time digging through all the assessor records, the register of deeds, plans on file, trying to identify everything that either the town owns, or is otherwise should be listed in the open space inventory. So it's fairly completed. I've been trying to keep it up to date since then, so that in not too many years from now, we're going to be producing an updated open space and recreation plan. I would like not to have to have me or somebody else redevelop that whole inventory from scratch. So yeah, I pulled together information from as many sources. So I have all that at home.
Yeah.
I can dig that up, put together specifically the properties that we've just talked about for us to begin looking at, and then we can go from there.
Sounds good.
Other than that, other upcoming activities that relate to this committee would be our annual update of the status of the action items of the open space and rec plan. For that, last couple of years, I've sent out emails in December to all the
committees.
all the agencies
actions,
and asking them for, tell us what you've done this year on all your open space and rec plan action items. We try to
It's
get
coming
that
up in
done.
time to do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was December, January of last year.
Yep. Yeah, so it's approaching that time of year, and then in January or February, whenever we get all that information together, we'll update the status information on our website. We'll summarize that in our annual report, the annual town report. And that's where we go with that. And probably, trying to remember if it's 5 years or 7 years. I think it's 7 years that we have to update the plan. So that will be coming up. Maybe next year we start thinking about updating the open space and rec plan. I'm not sure. But I don't have to worry about that. We don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, a couple of years.
Not now.
Question, we could go back.
Yeah.
To the action item status. So the one I found online, it's from 2022. Is that the most recent action item list that you were referencing? I wanna make sure there's not like a newer one. I should-
There is a newer one, and you know what? I'll bet you I never put that up on the website.
Yeah, it was,
Some of the stuff you said though was verbatim from the 2022, so.
Yeah,
it's within a year. That's how current it is.
yeah, so back near the beginning of this year, we updated it for 2023. And I know I put it all together. I'll bet you I never uploaded it to the website.
That's my next question. There's a lot of, the responsible party, the conservation is the lead. And a lot of them say no action. So. I guess I'll look at the updated list, and if nothing's
Yes.
changed, then maybe we can talk about how we move some of those
Yeah, Leah
forward.
had responded to. And I think for, you know, the end of 2023 status, I think there was more that had been done.
Yeah, there's a lot of outreach on water quality stuff.
Yeah.
There was no movement, which it could be because this was just new, so. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll wait on the updated one. and get
Yeah.
all my questions.
Yeah, get that updated.
How did I not take that, take all the updated documents I made and?
Unless, I mean, it could be there. I just pushed the
Yeah,
wrong
we
link. I have
moved a lot of things around.
computer.
Yeah. But, yeah, now that you mention it, there's an excellent chance that I never actually put the updated information on the website.
Because we're way behind if this is updated.
Yeah, I know, I know we assigned a lot of action items to the Conservation Commission,
All right.
but that's probably not totally surprising since this is open space.
No, a
and
lot of this
recreation.
stuff makes total sense, but a
Yeah,
lot of the outreach is something that I think Leah and Janet have been working on. Some of it
Yeah.
I don't know about the water quality,
and
water quality plans for all water bodies. I don't know if they've done that one.
Yeah. And there are some things on that list that if I had to do this over again and create the list, there's stuff I wouldn't have put. I mean, I was part of the committee that put the open space and rec plan together, wrote up the action item list. But, that actually, Maria did quite a bit of work on that. But, yeah, we, with staff changes and committee membership changes, we kind of lost the initiative on that plan. So in the end, trying to pull the final version of the commit plan together, it was largely myself and Trish from Central Mass Regional Planning. They had some staff changes. CMRPC had some staff changes too. They had 2 or 3 different people working on this thing. So it took us a lot longer to get it all together. And when we finally got it together, yeah, we were throwing things, oh, that's a good idea. We'll put that in the action plan.
Yeah.
When we put the action plan together, we weren't really thinking about, well, are these things that are actually things you can do? And yeah, it sounds like a good idea, but who's gonna do it? We didn't think about that. One of the first things this committee did, we put this committee together as a follow-up to the completion of the open space and rec plan. Well, we've got 65 action items here. What do we do with them? That's when we created this committee as sort of,
Yeah. that's
and the
what
first thing we did at the committee was decide who is gonna be the lead party on each of these action items.
It was a
Having
good
time-
exercise because we got a lot of good feedback.
Yeah,
This isn't mine.
yeah, that was good. That should have been done as we were developing the plan.
Yeah.
My computer. The computer disconnected and reconnected to Zoom just on its own. Anyway, so. Do we have anything else we have to talk about in terms of our near future work? I've got an action item myself. First thing tomorrow, I get those status updates put up on the
I'll wait
website.
to bug Leah until I see the updated list.
I think you laid out a good plan on those three items that we talked about today. With an action plan to work on looking at the available, what is town owned that we need to identify and determine how we take ownership of it? Or how do we use it, if we need to use it at all?
Does the town have a GIS person? Or did they sub it all out?
Yeah, I don't believe we have a GIS person as such in there. The heck? My computer can't stay connected to Zoom here. And, oh yeah, we have. Not sure who all in town. On staff, talks to the GIS people. I know Fiona does. There may be others, I think, well, the assessors office might work with GIS people as well.
Mark Martin here, that's Sandy Hook Promise. On December 14th, 2012, my 7-year-old son.
I hear that coming along.
Okay. Anything else? Any questions you might have, Travis? You're just coming into this.
Yeah, trying not to cause too much trouble. Do what I can to help, yeah.
Yeah,
And if there's anything,
Travis, Travis, I was gonna ask, are you new to the town? Or have you been working here for a while?
so I've lived in the town about a decade now, and I've been on the Conservation Commission as a commissioner for a year and a half. And now I've been appointed the Concom rep to this committee.
Okay, so you don't actually work for the town, you're just on the commission, okay.
Yep.
all right, well, if there's nothing else for the moment, I did have meeting minutes on the agenda.
Did you attach something to the?
No.
Okay.
So that's on me, I should have, I definitely should have sent those out beforehand. I need to get caught up because I checked the town website and we're behind on posting the minutes, which is on me. But the one I'm getting stuck on is from January because I think I was sick and Anne Marie prepared those, so I'll try to get those January minutes from her. But the rest of them have been approved. I just need to send them over to the town clerk to get uploaded. And then I will send out the draft March minutes for review. And then maybe we can approve those at the next meeting, Dave, if that's okay.
Yeah, Anne Marie had sent me the January minutes, but
Okay,
I'll forward them to you. I thought.
Okay.
I thought maybe Ann had sent them to you too, but they didn't. So I'll forward those to you.
okay, thank you.
All right, Shannon, I just forwarded Anne Marie's minutes to you.
Thank you.
All right, well, if there's nothing else,
No.
a motion to adjourn would be in order.
Do we, when will we meet next?
Well, our regular meeting schedule was like the third Wednesday of every month. And yeah, we sort of, as it's as much me dropping the ball as anything else, and that. I think I was gonna schedule a meeting in August and then something happened and I wasn't able to get it posted 2 days in advance.
That's right, I remember the communication on that one.
So,
So we pushed it off to September.
let's see, the calendar here.
I think it
October-
largely is based on what kind of work and the sense of urgency for the work on how
Yeah.
often we're meeting. That's,
Yes, and I suspect we're gonna decide that we don't really need to meet every month. But just to kick off this next thing that we were planning, I'm gonna tentatively say we would meet on the 16th of October, that would be the third Wednesday. That's gonna require me to make sure I get the meeting posted the week before, on the 11th, because that Monday is a holiday, so we have to post meetings 2 days in advance, so assuming I can get myself to remember to post a meeting and get it posted in a timely manner, we'll meet on the 16th of October.
October 16th. Got it. Thank you.
And I'll double check as that time gets a little bit closer, I'll double check with everybody to make sure that we're all gonna be available that day. I don't believe it's not a holiday week. I mean, springtime, February and April, typically the third Wednesday is like school vacation week, and that's probably when it for people.
What's Columbus Day?
Columbus Day is the 14th,
So it is a week.
Indigenous Peoples' Day.
Okay, sorry.
It's a holiday week, but it's only the first day of the week. It's not one of those holiday weeks where people take the whole week off. All right,
Make
anything
a
else?
motion to adjourn if you need one.
That would be appropriate. I will recognize that motion.
Second,
Moved in second that we adjourn. We'll call for a vote. Stephen,
in favor?
Travis,
Yes.
Shannon,
Yes.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
excellent. And Dave votes aye. Motion carried unanimous that we are adjourned. Thank you for coming out. And hopefully we can get ourselves back on at least a more regular scheduled meeting, only as often as we need to.
Oh,
Perfect. Thanks all.
thank you.
Have a good night. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye, take care.
All right. Nice meeting you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well.
Nice
again,
meeting you.
welcome.
Take care.
See you next month, maybe.
Yeah.
In meeting.
Dave, thank you for organizing.